Let us begin the session with a minute's silence and pray to Almighty that we all remain safe and healthy and the whole world overcomes the challenging times. And also a special word of prayer for the souls who have succumbed to their fate during these tragic days. Continue to be seated wherever you are and close your eyes for a minute. Thank you and good evening once again. Special good evening to our guest of the evening, Mr. Suru BR, co-founder and vice chairman at Stark Communications Private Limited and brand director BR&S Consultants. Past president and program committee chair, Mr. S.R. Nair. Past president A.K. Nair. Senior vice president Nirmala Lilly. Cannot find any other office bearers out here, other MC members. Members of KMA and other LMAs, students and invited guests. Good to see that we have a very good attendance in the beginning itself, and I'm sure it will swell even further as we progress. Situation around us is still gloomy, though we are getting signs of the hope in the horizon. The good news coming in is that we have a steady decline in the number of new cases, though the test positivity rate is still about 10. While all are looking forward to hearing more relaxations in the lockdown soon, which is crippling our lives, professions, and businesses, it does not mean that we drop our guards and negate the good effects that we achieved due to the hard work of frontline workers and the hygienic discipline that was enforced on all of us. So let us continue to remain vigilant and follow all the protocols aimed at avoiding the chance of getting infected and thus not adding to the TPR. Well, coming to today's LeaderTalks session, our program committee headed by our former president, corporate mentor, Mr. S.R. Nair, and our team have been conceiving regular programs in spite of the lull due to the gloom around us, as we took a deliberate stand to keep going and keep our members engaged with useful, meaningful, and positive deliberations. We have made a multitude of programs all these months. And this month itself, we have already had one of the startup conversations with young entrepreneurs, a program by the Women Managers Forum, Professor K.T. Chandy Memorial Lecture by Corporate Guru Mr. R.R. Nair, and the hugely successful KMA MSME Summit and the inauguration of the activities of the MSME Forum by our Honorable Industries Minister, Sri P. Rajiv, just last week. This is the 15th of the LeaderTalks lecture series that we are having in this KMA year. All these sessions were carefully selected with renowned speakers from the industry and academia, sharing their domain knowledge and their valuable experience with our audience. Speakers were from diverse sectors and topics were topical and timely. And today we have yet another session with great contemporary relevance and interest. We are going to spend an hour with an Adman who made an indelible mark in the field of branding and advertising since the 90s and made Kerala literally a brand to reckon with. 1990s, I remember, were the times when we looked up to some creative magicians of India, some of the legends like the Alik Padamsi of Lindas, Mani Iyer of O&M, or Mr. R.K. Swami, creating print and visual media advertisements of branding exercise. That is when someone down south in Trivandrum in 1994 set up a shop and came out with some of the catchy slogans, taglines, and branding which made the world sit back and recognize. And that too, they projected an entire state as a brand that transformed the entire landscape of the state to be seen as a destination for global tourism and made tourism one of the major economic catalysts for the state. Yes, Star Communications literally placed Kerala on the world tourism map and positioned it as one among the top 10 must-see destinations of the world. Well, there are quite a few staking their claim of ownership at different levels of involvement for the monumental rechristening of a state as God's own country, from senior IAS officers to acclaimed advertising companies. It goes without saying that Stark and Swaroop were instrumental in nurturing brand Kerala like they've done with many other brands across the country. Let us hear it all from the horse's mouth today as we get to hear Mr. Swaroop of Stark Communications chat with our program committee chair and past president, Mr. S.R. Nair, on the topic, creating and nurturing brands. Mr. Swaroop, we are indeed so privileged to have you with us today to share your hands-on experience and expertise in branding and advertising with our members and guests. On behalf of the managing committee and all present here, may I extend a hearty welcome to Mr. Swaroop BR, co-founder and vice chairman at Star Communications Private Limited and brand director at BR&S Consultants to this 15th LeaderTalks lecture series of KMA.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Madhav Chandran. Thank you.
Pleasure. A warm welcome to all the past presidents present here, members of the managing committee and executive committee, senior vice president, members of KMA and other LMAs, student members, members of the media, and all invited guests to this session, which is about to begin. So now to start the deliberations, let me invite our program committee chair and past president, Mr. S.R. Nair, to formally introduce the speaker and also take us through this session, an hour with an Adman. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhav. Once again, a great welcome to Mr. B.R. Swaroop and a great welcome to everyone who is present on this show. I will read out a very small, brief resume of Swaroop and then engage him on the conversation. At the same time, any one of you who are having questions, you can actually put it on the chat box. I would pick it up from there, acknowledge you and ask a question, and that comes at the latter part of the show. Okay. Let me have the privilege of introducing Mr. Swaroop. As already mentioned by President Madhav Chandran, he is a co-founder and vice chairman of Star Communications Private Limited, as well as a brand director of BR&S Consultants. Mr. Swaroop nurtured Star Communications Private Limited from its inception in 1994 in Trivandrum to an agency recognized for its distinctive creative work ethics, people-centric growth, and outstanding client retention record. He played a key role in building Kerala tourism brand for 2 decades, actively partnered in the brand's journey from a non-entity to India's #1 tourism destination. His tourism campaigns have set benchmarks in the realms of destination marketing in India and have won many national and international awards. From 2014, he also started working as an independent brand consultant, helping established clients as well as startups nurture their brands. This resume, which we have actually put up in our invite, is a very, very small one, which actually establishes maybe about 30% of what Mr. B.R. Swaroop is. He is a certified coach. He's a writer. He's a translator. He has translated Benjamin's book into English. He's an excellent conversationalist. He's a judge of international advertisement competitions and media. And above all, my interaction with him and one distinct element in Mr. Swaroop that comes out is a great people reader. I have had instances of interacting with him, with others. I've taken some of my mentees to him for advice, etc. And he was able to pick them up sharply within no time. He's a great people reader, and he's able to actually deliver based on his observations that way. It is for the last 2 years that I have been trying to get Mr. Swaroop here to this podium. Ultimately, I should say hi. I have been able to get him to speak at KMA because it is actually even before Jibu's presidentship, I had been asking him to come to KMA. That time it was a physical meeting, come to KMA, but we have not been able to match our timings actually. Okay, a great welcome, Mr. Swaroop.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now let's chat. Okay. Fundamentally, the question. In fact, I would pick up from where Madhav had left. He said, the gurus and the strategists and whatnot of ad media. We hear. He started taking the name of Alek Padamsi, the god he is called, Lintas, and we have had many other names, Piyush Pandey, Prahlad, so many Prahlad Kakkad, so many other names, and some of your campaigns even outgrown or even competed much higher plane than this. So I was always thinking as to why you are here in Kerala in Trivandrum as a southern tip of the state, without being actively there in places where actually it matters, in places like Mumbai, Delhi, and places like that. So what is that which tied you to Kerala and tied you to Trivandrum, and that you refuse to take it up at a larger picture based at places like Mumbai or something? Can we get some input from you on that, sir?
Yeah, sure, sure. No, I started my career in Delhi actually, and during my first break, and I had a break for 7 days, I came to Trivandrum. I came back to Trivandrum, and something happened during those 7 days. To begin with, I realized that everyone I care for, everyone I love, my parents, somebody I was in love with at that point in time, and she had a good non-transferable job in Trivandrum. And so I thought, what am I doing somewhere else? And this is perhaps where I should be. And then something else also happened, which is I came back from Delhi during the end of July, and it was still the monsoon. And I realized how beautiful this place actually is. And then I went home, and then the problem started because my mother had made, നല്ല അപ്പവും മുട്ടക്കറിയും ഉണ്ടാക്കി വെച്ചിരുന്നു. അത് കഴിച്ചിട്ട് കിടന്നുറങ്ങി. രാവിലെ എണീറ്റപ്പോൾ പുട്ടും കടലയും മാങ്ങ ഉപ്പിലിട്ടതും പപ്പടവും നല്ല സ്ട്രോങ് ചായയും വന്നു. ഉച്ചയായപ്പോൾ ചോറും പുളിശ്ശേരിയും നാരങ്ങ ഉപ്പിലിട്ടതും മീൻ പൊള്ളിച്ചതും അവിയലും തോരനും വന്നു. So by evening, I was pretty much sure that, hey, what the hell am I doing in Delhi? This is a place to be in. So the third day, I picked up the phone and I started talking to my friends to find out if there was any agency in Trivandrum, where I could team up. All of them, every single one of them abused me. And they said, look, you're nuts. Get the hell out of there. Cancel your leave and go back because you're moving into the wrong zone. So, but my gut, and I've always kind of gone by my gut, and my gut kept telling me, no, it's don't give up. So I started doing research on my own. And in those days, there was no internet, there was no mobile phone, there was nothing. You had to go out there and search for things. So on the third day, I discovered that somebody called Harshan, with a lot of national agency experience, had set up shop in Trivandrum. So I went and met him. He gave me a job. I started working the very next day. And that was an agency which Harshan had set up with a few partners of his. So we worked together for about 2.5 years. And then most of us let go at the same time. We left the agency at the same time. And we were all wondering what to do next and we were sitting at the dinner table in Harshan's house, and suddenly someone said, we are all here. Why don't we try having our own shop? So we weren't all that sure. At the end of the day, it was Trivandrum. So we said, let's go and meet a few clients tomorrow and see how it goes. So we went and met a couple of clients, and suddenly we had work. We had work to deliver in 1 week, and that is how Stark was born. So if you ask me why, I think it was because my gut told me that this is a place to be, because this is a place that you're happy in. This is a place that all the people you love are, and why should I go somewhere else? But, in a line, I think I've always gone by what my gut has told me, my intuition has told me when it comes to a lot of personal decisions and at times even professional decisions. And in the last 6 years, and especially in the last 15 months, we have become totally geography agnostic. It really doesn't matter where you are. And the perfect example for that is a few weeks ago, we signed up to do a design job with Netflix in California. I mean, so there you are. I mean, today it really doesn't matter where you are.
I understand, but that is a changed time. So the last explanation given by you is with respect to the last
Absolutely.
15 months. Otherwise, things would have been different. Now, but I have some questions, but my first question is, why the name Stark?
Oh, that is very simple. Like I said, we got work before we were even ready with an agency.
Okay.
And so the easiest thing to do was to see, Harshan had set up an agency called Stark much before this avatar of Stark.
Okay.
And so the easiest thing to do was to revive that entity. And we were all kind of happy with the name, because basically we are all people who are very, we state what we feel, we state what we think. So somehow the name appealed to us, and we were actually reviving an existing entity that was, a private limited company that was sleeping. So that is how that came about.
All right. No regrets?
Not at all. Not at all.
Absolutely.
Not at all. No.
Okay. Right. So now I go to the other one which President has alluded, which is actually the tourism scenario, and even today many of many people have differences of opinion as far as this caption of Kerala as God's own country. Okay. I have seen IAS officers at the level of chief secretaries, down the level of director tourism, or even people related to. I had seen entrepreneurs. I had seen professionals claiming that actually God's own country is their creation, or I will call in Malayalam as Srishti. Okay. Now this has been going on lately. We have been reading on the WhatsApp several explanations as to why the name God's own country and who made it and things like that. So I know that Harshan was directly involved, and thereafter you, and then the brand actually came. The Kerala tourism brand evolved. So can we put to rest all these rumors and start saying, okay, God's own country, where did it come from?
Okay, so let me answer that in two parts, because there's a technical part to it which is not very important, and then there is the real story which is very important.
Okay.
So the technical thing is Mudra, the agency Mudra, won the tourism account, the Kerala tourism account, sometime in 1988-89, if my memory is right, or 87-88, I think.
Okay.
And then Harshan, who is currently the chairman of Stark, was heading Mudra Cochin at that point in time. And after winning the account, Harshan wanted to present a comprehensive campaign to the client. So, and he did not have resources in Kochi to pull that off. So he spoke to Krishnamurthy of Mudra, and he put him in touch with a guy called Walter Mendes.
Walter Mendes, okay.
Yeah, Walter Mendes was the corporate creative director of Mudra, who was sitting in Ahmedabad.
Okay.
And Harshan briefed Walter and directed Walter, and it was Walter who put together the campaign. Harshan presented it to the client, it got approved, and it went into print. So put very briefly, that was the progression of events. Now, so technically, who authored the line? It was a guy called Walter Mendes.
Okay.
Now, but what you said about a lot of people saying that they are behind it, I think that is a wonderful thing, and that is what we owe the success of Kerala tourism to, because that ownership. Because if you look at it, this is just a tagline at the bottom of a logo, and how do you breathe life into it, and who breathes life into it? A tagline comes to life when people breathe life into it. So the first set of people to breathe life into it was the trade, the people who created beautiful spaces, beautiful experiences. They breathed life into God's own country. And then the ministers, irrespective of party affiliations, the secretaries of tourism, the directors of tourism, all the people who worked in the Department of Tourism, all the agencies, not just Stark, all the agencies who worked with the Department of Tourism, the filmmakers whom we have worked with and the department has worked directly with, all of them have interpreted God's own country in their own way, have added value to God's own country in their own way. And like I said, they've breathed life into their own way, and they have done it consistently and contextually, because things keep changing, and the lens through which you look at God's own country in the 80s or the 90s is not the lens at which you look at this concept now.
Yeah.
And the best part was that we were lucky to have people who actually came in and all of them wanted to take it to the next level. Like, say, for example, I'll give you one instance. In 1999-2000, the director of tourism and the secretary of tourism decided that, look, the department will not act like God anymore.
Okay.
And they came down and they worked with the trade and created one of the most successful private-public partnerships called the Kerala Travel Mart.
Yes.
So that was another interpretation of this whole concept, and how you create a level playing field for the trade. So if you ask me, ownership, this ownership that you spoke about,
yep,
is actually the key to the success of the brand. It's like saying, when I hear someone say, Stark is my agency, it gives me goosebumps. So it doesn't matter whether he is a writer, whether he's a peon, or whether he's a director. That ownership matters a great deal. And I think that is what creates success very often.
Yeah, you're saying that it's a collective ownership and the joint ownership, and that has actually breathed life to the campaign to take take the campaign to this far, and Kerala getting that distinct interpretation. Let me ask you this question, sir. What was the logic of Walter calling it God's own country?
Oh, simple, because Harshan was working with him, and basically at that point in time, we had only nature to talk about.
Okay.
If I were to be very clinical, we had Kovalam to be talking about, because most of the destinations, if you look at it, Kumarakam, Munnar, all of it happened after that.
Much later.
Much later. So there was only nature to talk about, and hence it was very simple. And the beauty of the whole thing, like you said, is today we have, whether whoever it be, there are lots of people giving it different interpretations.
Yes.
And I think that is a beauty of a successful tagline, because it lends itself well to deconstruction. Mm-hmm. So when I look at God's own country, it is my God's own country, and I will interpret it my way. It is true that vested interests also keep interpreting it and saying a lot of things, but that is all part of the show. It will die a natural death, and only what is good and what is sustainable will remain.
All right. Now, I have these three scenarios of logic behind Walter Mendes meant the nature, and the nature as a god. There was this interpretation, somebody was telling me sometime back, that Kerala has a land claimed by Parashurama by throwing his axe into the Arabian Sea and created it. So it is God's land, so that it came from Parashurama. Recently, there had been a huge campaign going on in WhatsApp by telling that the Maharaja of Travancore, he betrothed the whole country to the Padmanabha, and then he said, okay, I'm ruling it on behalf of the god. So therefore, it is a God's own country. And the third interpretation that I have, it is actually my own, wherein I say that we have sent all the able-bodied Malayalis outside to work and sent the remittance home, and we live inside here as gods, having a single malt and jacuzzis at the bathrooms and vehicles and whatnot, all these consumptions that we do. 3% of the Malayalis consuming 10% of the gross domestic product of the country. So all this actually goes well with this campaign now that you're saying, actually.
Absolutely. In fact, the more the interpretations, the better it is. And in fact, there was also a whole lot of comments made against the tagline when it was launched, because there were a few people who said, "Hey, this is a communist government. How can you say God's own country?
Okay,
what the hell is God doing there?" So well, it survived and it did well.
Okay, I think, but yeah, you say that's right. It also has a proverbial saying that success has many fathers. So if anything that has succeeded, they say it is all mine. So good. But I really like the way, or the empathy that you've created by telling that actually everybody breathed by joint ownership of the life into it, and the brand grew like it. Okay. Now, will you be able to give us a little idea about how you and Stark has been instrumental in the journey of tourism brand of Kerala?
See, to begin with, we were very lucky to have people at the helm of affairs whom we were working with, who actually understood the brand and wanted to take it to the next level consistently. Okay. And that happens very, very rarely, because we worked with other tourism boards outside of Kerala. We worked with Karnataka. Okay, let me not name them. But Kerala had that very unique advantage of having people who actually at every stage they come in, they want to take the brand to the next level.
Yep.
And that also means doing brave things that other people have not done. Like, say, for example, Kerala was the first state that created a television commercial and aired it in 1999.
Great.
And really went to town with it. We were the first people who to set up this private-public partnership called Kerala Travel Mart, and the impact of that is something that you will understand. I'm sure I don't think we have time to get into that, but the impact of that was huge. So what did Stark do for all this? Stark was actually working with the department as an extended arm of the department almost. So we would do our own research. The problem is that whenever we want to do research, we spend out of our own pocket.
Okay.
So we were consistently doing research with about 3,000, 4,000 travelers every year after year at our own cost. And we always ensured that we ourselves were part of the research. It was not 100% outsourced. About 20% of it was done by our own people so that we get a feel of the market. So right from understanding the trade, understanding the domestic traveler, understanding the international traveler, and then parallelly looking at world markets and finding out which are the next best markets to enter. So everywhere we've played a role in advising people at the helm of affairs, and also ensuring that we implement. In fact, Stark, I think we've done events in about 63 cities across the world for tourism. And right from 2000, it is not just the department that comes. There are about 40 or 50 or 60 trade people who come with us. So it is actually very grassroots level work that happens, and we work with the trade as well. So it is not that we work in isolation with the department, we work with the trade as well to make these events successful. So it was a very involved space wherein there are a lot of nuances that need to be taken care of when you do international promotion, and those are something that we have understood and studied and perfected across time. So that unique set of skills, I think, makes us a notch above other agencies who do the same thing, because we've been with it for such a long time and we've built relationships, because all these fairs are all about relationship building. You can't just plug in and plug out. You need to be there and you need to handhold the relationship across time.
Great. So I think, but at the same time, if you really look at it, the God's Own Country and the campaign thereafter, and the tourism campaigns, Kerala Travel Mart, etc., has taken the brand as well as the state of Kerala into higher notches, as you rightly said. Now, for you to be part of it, and others recognizing that, somewhere there is a mention that this award and this campaign and the subsequent movement thereof had received many a recognition accolades. Will you be able to cite something of that?
Yeah, sure. Because if you look at it, we have won the PATA Gold, which is PATA is a Pacific Asia Travel Association. We have won the PATA Gold for our marketing initiatives, our promotional work, whether it is print campaigns, television campaigns, digital campaigns, and so on and so forth. We've won there's an award at ITB, I forget the name. I've been out of touch with this trade fair spaces, but there are a whole lot of trade-related awards that recognize marketing and promotion, and we've won almost all of them.
Okay, right. Yes, go ahead, sir, please.
Internationally. Yeah. And if you look at creative awards, we've won, again, a whole range of awards for the work that we've done for Kerala tourism, right from international awards to regional awards, whether it is New York festivals or LIA or Abbey in India or Pepper in Cochin for one, and or the Bangalore Art Club or the Delhi Art Club. So it's
Okay, now it is actually a sort of an observation that I would like to take from you. See, this campaign has been going on for more than about 2.5 decades now.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, tourism as an industry is in peril, and you know it why, because of the COVID and thereafter challenges galore. Now, at this point in time, anyway, we have been having a campaign based on a catchword byline called "God's own country." Do you think time has come to re-engineer or get off from here and do something new on Kerala tourism campaigns?
I honestly don't think so, because new is actually a new interpretation of the space, yes. But to discard something that has been so successful and that still continues to be successful, I think is a mistake. Because very often what happens is clients get bored with certain things, you know.
Yeah.
And then but fortunately, I'm not talking about Kerala tourism, but there are clients who get bored with certain spaces, and then they say, let's just rework. So if there is a real need to relook, you know, then you need to relook. But right now, I don't think there's a real need to relook. In fact, I think there's plenty of steam left in God's own country, and it's a great platform. And when the time comes, when the need arises, perhaps, you know, we can look at uh, looking afresh at the whole thing. But I don't think the time has come yet. No.
Thank you. Okay, so the continuances of the campaign and the campaign still retain the freshness. That's what you mean. Now, going a little personal. See, you though you continue to be vice chairman and co-founder of Star, you had moved out in a way that you had started a consulting company of your own called BR&S, and going thereafter getting into some of the classic campaigns about which we'll discuss a little later. But why did you move out, and what was that? What prompted you to do that?
Um, a technical correction, I haven't moved
Moved
out.
out. I understand. Sorry. Yeah.
See, I used to have the 6 year, 7 year itch, you know,
Okay.
and every 6 years I would jump up and say, I need to do something else. So it became a bit of a joke amongst Harshan and Roy and all that. And I think after about 18 years, I said, no, this time it's for real. I mean, I really need to move away from the space and, you know, look at what else is there. So even though Harshan and Roy were not quite in agreement with that, we got into external consultants. We got in an HR agency to put up systems and practices and everything. Some of it worked out beautifully, some of it did not. But we prepared the agency, and I moved out. I moved out very quietly. I moved away from operations, would be
Yeah.
a better way of putting it. You know, I moved away completely from operations, and I was wearing two hats at the time. I was managing director, and I was also creative director.
Okay.
And so two people actually stepped up. Roy became managing director, and Shelton became the main creative director.
Okay.
And if you look at it closely, the agency has continued to do better and better with each passing year. So this moving away from operations did not affect the agency at all. And I think what it taught me was the art of letting go.
Okay.
You know, and I think it's a very important thing for people, because letting go and succession planning, I think, are two things that most businessmen, especially of a particular age, have a problem with. And I say that because I've seen it happen across the last 4 or 5 years, when very senior people have a problem moving out, have a problem letting go. And then they are not just blocking other people, they are also blocking new thinking, fresh perspectives, and so on and so forth. So one thing was the art of letting go. And because of Harshan and Roy, I couldn't leave. I mean, they are like family for me. And I definitely had no intention of getting into a battle with them and walking out. So I also learned the art of letting be, thanks to Roy, because Roy said, look, there's no way I'm letting you go. So I said, fine, I will let be, you know.
Okay.
So that is how it evolved. And I'm glad I did that, because it helped Stark in many ways. The relationship continued. Whatever I did outside also helped a great deal in bringing new perspective to the agency. And it also helped us actually seriously start planning succession. In fact, we are in the process of doing that. And I think if it had not been for COVID, by now we would have implemented it, but we hope to do it in the next year or year and a half.
That is great. I think I really, the two words that I have taken from you is that one is letting go, letting be, and the other is entrepreneurial itch. That entrepreneur gets that itch, But then normally the itch happens when they don't succeed, or normally when the itch happens when there are problems between directors and founders. Normally the itch happens when the atmosphere become very vicious, etc. And you said that okay, you just had this itch and moved out. So and if I understand things, you actually moved out without even planning anything forward for you personally. So how did it come about?
No, I did not. I did not plan anything because I knew that I would start thinking only after I let go. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to sit in that place and then because it never works out that way.
Okay.
So after I let go, I traveled. I traveled alone. I traveled with my wife. I traveled with my wife and my mother, and all of these were beautiful experiences. Especially when you see your mother, uh, you know, becoming childlike again. It's an absolutely wonderful feeling. So other than traveling, I read a lot because I was feeling a bit of a fraud, because I keep buying books. When I'm happy, I buy books. When I'm sad, I buy books. So and I just keep accumulating them, and very often I there's no time to read. So I read quite a bit, and um, I also did a whole lot of programs. I became a student once again.
Hmm.
I went to IIM in Ahmedabad and did a program in luxury management. I did a program with INSEAD in France on blue ocean strategy. I did a program on branding in Northwestern Kellogg University. So it was great to be a student. And in Kellogg, we also had this honor of being in a class where Philip Kotler decided to give us a surprise and take a 1 hour session for us, which was not on the charts. It just happened. So it was altogether, it was a nice break, and it gave me a lot of perspective. But what actually happened, and the reason why I set up this consultancy was because uh, I was at that point in time what I would call in Kerala parlance a discussion thorilali. What that means is
In
friends.
Malayalam, we call it as Tonda Thuvilali. Okay, please go ahead, sir.
Friends, entrepreneurs, all these people used to call, and then they'll say, let's go have a meal. And I want to discuss something. So they will come up with an opportunity or come up with a problem, and then I'll give them my take on it. And subsequently, they'll get back and say, hey, like what you said worked, So, and slowly all of them started talking to me about why don't you set up a consultancy? Because in fact, it took another set of people to point out that I was wearing a lot of hats. I was managing director, I was creative director. I used to go for client meetings and take care of client relationships. I used to be part of the strategy team. I used to make presentations and so on and so forth. So that gave me a particular kind of roundedness, which I myself had not seen. So, and then I turned to my favorite friend, my gut. And he also told me, like, this seems like a good idea. So why don't you go ahead? So that is how this whole consultancy came about. And I think that taking the break was fantastic because it gave me perspective. Being a student was great because it made me realize that the basics are all in place and you don't have to be worried. That is what happens when you go at a particular age and sit in a class. You connect theory back to experience.
Yes.
So that was a great feeling. And it also helped me set standards which if you actually set standards for yourself, then you might survive. When you start comparing, that the whole problem starts, is what I've always felt.
All right.
So,
Okay. So now it is during this BRNS as a consulting time that one of the finest of campaigns that we had seen in the last 4-5 years that has actually evolved, and I call it the Aster campaign. Across. And my understanding is that this campaign was so good and so acceptable and so fresh, and it completely changed the position of that hospital and the healthcare that they were giving, and they decided to adopt it across countries wherever they had their clinics and hospitals going on. So we would definitely like to know about this Aster campaign, which is now a case study in many B schools, telling that okay, the way it is coming. And I had seen many pretenders as well as copies of that campaign again from the same sector happening later. Would you be able to give us some gyan about the Aster campaign that you have done, and that too in typical vernacular across, pastering the whole state across and getting accepted as a real healthcare brand within the state of Kerala, when that hospital was not doing all that great at the beginning 1 or 2 3 years? Will you be able to give us some idea, please?
Sure. Actually, it was my very close friend, Dr. Harish, who then was the CEO of Aster MedCity and who now is the CEO of Aster India.
Yeah, Harish Pillai.
Harish Pillai, yes, who actually bulldozed me into taking up the work.
Okay.
And so the first thing that we did is we started speaking to people. And what we realized from all the conversations that we had with the audience in the state, especially in Cochin, was that nobody is actually interested in a hospital. Nobody wants to go to a hospital. Nobody wants to see the picture of illness in the newspapers or on hoardings. Nobody wants to see a lung or a kidney or a liver plastered on a hoarding or a newspaper. Yep. Nobody wants to see an operating theater anywhere. Nobody wants to see some strange looking machine that will operate upon them, even if it be the only machine that exists in Kerala. So nobody is actually interested in a hospital, and that is the truth of the matter. So if what we decided was something very simple. We will invest our time, energy, and money in telling people how to stay away from hospitals. And that is what we did for 5 years, consistently did for 5 years. And that is why the whole campaign and the brand, was accepted by the people. Because for once, here was a hospital that is telling them in a very interesting manner, telling them to sleep for 7 or 8 hours, to hydrate, to eat healthy, to eat on time, to exercise, and so on and so forth. And every campaign that we did, even if it be for specific centers of excellence of cardiology or neurology or whatever, was stuff that actually connected with the people. Like say, for example, in cardiology, we put up a hoarding in the most busiest junction in Cochin. And we said something like, I don't remember the exact line, but it went something like this: to avoid the block, walk.
Yeah, see that, yes.
And what we did was we got the Assistant Commissioner of Police to come and of Traffic to come and distribute, inaugurate the distribution of books to all the people who were stuck in the junctions.
Okay.
And what was the book about? The book was about walking. It was 10 pages of how to walk, what to wear, what all, how to enthuse yourself into getting into that. There was not even a single line in it that said, come for a health checkup, find out what the condition, what condition you are in. Nothing. There was no selling at all.
Yes.
At the end of it, it just said issued in public interest by Aster MedCity.
Okay.
So stuff like this. And then for the organ transplant, we did a beautiful campaign, which one of my friends in North India called, and that is also reacting to the times that the country was going through. There's this friend of mine who called and said, if you had done this here, people would have burned down the hoarding and after that burned down the hospital also. So what I'm saying is our approach in terms of how we did it, we also made people laugh, we made people think, we made people debate, and so on and so forth. We highlighted a whole lot of social stuff that needed to be highlighted, including campaigns for children, for women power, and so on and so forth. So the beauty of it is that you need a great client to make this happen. because you need the client to approve all this. So that is where I think the magic of Dr. Azad Moopen came in.
Okay.
Because when I'm sure that in the first 2 months, he was a bit, unsure about whether he had hired the right person to do the job with me, because I kept talking about how we will keep people away from the hospital, So, but he's a very intelligent, very sharp person. And the minute he latched on to the big picture, he said, let's go ahead and try this out. And it started working. And from there was absolutely no interference. We just used to send stuff for approval directly to him. He would say, go ahead. And very often he would respond in 10, 15 minutes. And he always has a leaning, even today has a leaning towards communication. So the approval would come and we would just push it out. So, and we had a great team in Aster MedCity. Dr. Harish was there, Mr. Vinod, who is not there now, but who was head of marketing. We had a great team, and it was in a way a particular kind of magic that happened.
Great. Actually, now, how did you said about this being working in Kerala culture, whereas how did it get accepted? How did it get accepted in other parts of the world?
See, what went to other parts of the world is the tagline.
Okay.
In fact, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that. The whole thing was based on, the platform was just like we spoke about Kerala, God's own country. Here, the whole thing was Aster MedCity, and the tagline was, we'll treat you well. It is a simple, straight line with no gimmicks, nothing.
Yes.
But what did it actually do? It gave a beating stick to delivered right into the hands of the patient. Okay. Because I myself have heard people turn around and ask, "Ningal ingane we'll treat you well എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഇങ്ങനെയാണോ ആൾക്കാരെ treat ചെയ്യുന്നത്?" So what we did was the need to live up to that, the promise that you're making, the need to live up to that promise, and the need to do that across layers, right? From the chairman to the board to the rest of the team, the doctors to the nurses. So everyone had to treat the other person well. So it actually was an all-encompassing culture that we created within and without the organization. And which is why that line got, that platform got adapted across all Aster DM healthcare globally, and interpretations were done based on those countries,
local nuances.
Exactly.
But again, I think I see this comparison between God's own country that happened to Kerala and we will treat you well that happened to the Aster MedCity. There is the underlying empathy behind those lines actually has taken it across the world. What do you say?
Yeah. I think see, God's own we'll treat you well is a simple proposition in a manner of speaking. It is very straight, it is simple, and whereas God's own country lends itself to dramatic interpretations.
Understand. Let me just take a little deviation and ask you, we have been going through these COVID times and things are not stopping. We have second wave and third wave, and I don't know when it is going to stop. When we will be able to behave as we behaved in until 2019 and things like that. So what is the impact of COVID to this business and maybe to your company and you personally?
Last year, when this whole thing started, we did a review, and we asked ourselves, what is the most precious thing for us? And the most precious asset we have was people.
Okay.
And we decided that we will not let go of anyone on our roles. So that was where we started.
Okay.
And from there we worked backwards, So and the good thing was that there was a lot of support. There were people who went up to Roy and said, look, we have seen good times, now it's a bad time, so maybe we should all actually start looking at cut in salary, coming from the team. So we had to go through, we had to trim salaries in 2 phases. We let go of we had a large Cochin office which we let go of. We moved into a smaller place. We renegotiated rents with landlords, and all of them were very, very helpful.
Okay.
In fact, we got 50-60% discounts for 1 year or 1.5 years. So all that helped. But the key thing was that we did not have to let go of anyone. And this whole crisis brought the team together like never before. And during this phase, believe it or not, we were actually doing business development. And there was a new energy, there was a new zeal in the whole team, which I think also helped, especially in Cochin. Believe it or not, it was during this phase that we actually set up a virtual office in Calicut.
Okay.
So there was a lot of growth that happened, even though it was all, very, very, not growth as in the traditional way of you set up an office and then you take space. There's no office in Calicut. It's just everything is virtual.
Yeah.
And people also, and what I realized is that we are capable of, adapting ourselves, and we are far more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And the best part was that the team is slowly accepting uncertainty. And a lot of people who couldn't handle ambiguity can now handle ambiguity, because this year promises to be as bad as last year. Last year, the good thing that happened was we thought that it was going to be exceptionally bad. But in the last quarter, there was a deluge of work and new clients came in, and we kept ourselves in the green, so to speak. This year, if you ask me, I have no idea how it is going to pan out, but I think
you're able to digest the uncertainty. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, we are able to digest uncertainty. And the good thing about Stark is that, the directors and all the key people have always had the same approach to a crisis. So the first thing that we'll do when we have a meeting is, so starting from there it's a great place to start from, because you're not coming at anything from the point of view of fear. Fear is not why you take decisions. Fear is not why you take that unnecessary loan. Fear is not why you sack people. Fear is not why you cut salaries. So yeah, so that way it has been a great year. In fact, a great year of learning.
A great year as well as a great year of learning and transformation, isn't it?
Absolutely, a transformation. And മലയാളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞാല് നമ്മുടെയൊക്കെ കുറെ അഹങ്കാരമൊക്കെ അങ്ങ് മാറിക്കിട്ടി.
That is great. Nicely put it. Let me see. It is spending an hour with an admin, and it was about creating and nurturing brands. All that we spoke about it had a lot of elements to it, but we didn't go directly by saying so. As an admin, so let me ask you: when you want to create and nurture the brand, what are all the things that one should take care of, just to understand? You could be impromptu. I mean, I'm not saying that, okay, 1, 2, 3 like that. Okay. From your heart, again, you're a gut man. So you could tell us from the heart.
No, I think it's very simple. If you look at brands that have succeeded, and if you, when you actually start working with a brand, brands that understand why they exist, brands that are clear about what they do and how they do it, brands that know their audience well, I think are the ones that succeed, because the art of storytelling will live on. This is an age where we keep lamenting about the dramatic changes happening in media, and that is true, because if you look at it today, I'm an advertising guy, and I am paying a premium to YouTube so that I won't be troubled by advertising.
Okay.
I am paying a premium on Spotify so that I won't be troubled by advertising.
Okay.
So the whole world is slowly leaning, and streaming platforms like Netflix have already built this concept into it. There's no advertising at all.
Yeah.
So, and on the other hand, what do you see? You see that brands like Google, Facebook, Uber, Zoom, Airbnb, Netflix, all of them have established themselves with little or no advertising.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a confusing, bewildering space, or an exciting space to be in also. So amidst all this, what is the constant? The constant are the basics, which is why I said brands that understand the basics. And don't get carried away by all this jargon and all the stuff, all this media related existential crisis that seems to be afflicting a lot of clients, I think are the ones that will do well. Because at the end of the day, agencies also, I think, will step out of their comfort zones and create new working models.
Okay.
Why I say that is because as a consultant now, what do? I sit on the other side of the table also. I sit with the client, I understand his problems, I try to solve them, I understand the opportunities, I try to help him cash in on it. And I think agencies will also start doing this. And by doing this, what will happen is they will be able to breathe more life into the stories that they are telling.
Yeah.
Because they have a hands-on involvement.
Yeah.
And because of that, there will be better associations, better experiences, and that is actually what builds or creates a brand, the associations and the experiences that we offer. So I think brands that are very clear about the basics, and the brands that have a clear idea of where they want to go will do well and will adapt well and survive and thrive.
Great answer. What do you think is going to be the future of business per se? Now we have been discussing about marketing, advertisement, campaigns, etc. But you have already alluded to saying how things are happening in online world, the Googles and the Facebooks of the world, etc. But there is this brick and mortar, there is this manufacturing, there is this experiential things such as services and all. So what is going to be the future of business, in your understanding?
To be honest, I think it'd be very preposterous and perhaps presumptuous on my part to forecast the future of future of business. But from what little that I see, I find that there are three things that are happening. One is people are adapting to this, at the risk of using a cliche, the new normal, as we call it.
Yeah.
And they are adapting pretty fast. Okay. Now, a whole set of, like say, for example, when you do not go for a conference, what happens is a whole set of businesses that thrive because of that conference dies.
Yeah.
When you do not have a wedding, the way I'm not a fan of these large weddings at all. But even if you look at a small wedding, or maybe a family plus 200, 300 people, when that does not happen, there's a set of businesses around that flounders.
Yes.
So what is happening now is that apart from businesses that can be managed online, and apart from businesses that can be that can thrive by working out of home, there is a huge crisis happening with what a lot of things that we were doing which we are not doing now.
Yeah.
Which is why I said a whole lot of small businesses are dying.
Yes.
So how are we going to equip them to reconnect? To revive and reconnect, I think, will be the key thing going forward. Because all of us, unfortunately, are caught in our own worlds. We are trying hard to, keep our heads above the water. And there is also a whole lot of, in fact, I say this because a lot of people reached out and they were talking about how can we have a collective, how can we have a consortium of people coming together to actually get a particular set of people up and running. So if each industry were to look at itself closely and figure out which are the areas that need help, and if they could, do this, come together and pitch in and help salvage, or when I say salvage, I'm not saying that it's a money deal. What I'm saying is the whole thing. People need to rework. Like say, for example, when certain industries died, like music went digital. And Sony ended up closing all its Walkman factories. And so we are seeing that happening. We've been seeing that happening from the beginning of the century, actually.
Yes, yes.
You know, so this is a brutal kind of a change. And we still have no idea of what the impact is going to be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we will have to keep our eyes and ears open and do what we can, not only to further our businesses, but also to help people who have no idea how to adapt, no idea how to rejig the whole space and work in that.
Yeah, I am. My conversation questions have. I am putting it a rest to take questions from the audience. There is a question from Mr. John Jacob, and he asked Sarubji, he said, "Do you think other than tourism, Kerala is apt for promoting and creating a brand? What is falling short in Kerala for promoting? What is falling short in Kerala for promoting and branding other areas of business that is other than tourism? What more to be done at Kochi for promoting tourism?" And this is a combined question. So if you've understood, probably you could give an answer, sir.
Yeah, I think industry is something that Kerala has tried promoting big time across time.
Okay.
But I think what happens is at the end of the day, if what thrives is what has a backing in the state. Like say, for example, in tourism, there are active players. There's a trade that is very active. There are experiences. There are resorts. There are hotels. There is a infrastructure that is being set up, and everything is in place. And it's more of a
Tourism per se is a force multiplier. So therefore,
correct.
That's right. Okay,
correct. Now, if you link it to the question you asked earlier, in this, because tourism has not been thriving, the number of people who have been taking a hit is huge.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of associated industries that have been working connected to tourism, which are doing very badly now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So if you look at the rest of the spaces, I think if you look at industry, it will have to be, there has to be political will.
Yes.
And from political will, there has to be a clear plan.
Okay.
And then, see, the promotion is the fag end of it. So if you ask what more can be promoted, promotion comes at the fag end of it. If the need of the day is to figure out what we want to promote and why, and from there you get into the rest of the planning and the promotion stuff like that. So I don't think other than promoting, like say for example a business meet, many business meets have happened across time.
Yes.
Other than promoting specific events like that, we've never done a consistent campaign. And when I say campaign, I'm not talking about advertising at all. It could even be one-on-one wooing of industry and stuff. So Technopark is a huge success story that we have. And we have been associated with the promotion of Technopark right from, in fact, Mr. Vijayaraghavan was our first client.
Okay.
First client of Stark. So we've been associated with Technopark and the whole space, and we've played a role in promoting it. We've played a role in promoting KSIDC, Kinfra, and so on and so forth. A lot of government and non-government businesses. So if there is a specific product, if there is a specific concept, then you can promote that. In the absence of which, it becomes an issue. So today, when you look at it, there are a lot of areas that you can get into, but to get into that discussion, you're actually getting into, a whole new space altogether. So do you want to get into it now?
Not now. We are almost at the fag end of the discussion. Probably something can be taken off. Okay. I have this question from Jibu Paul, who is a past president, who is asking this typical, it's a tongue twister of a question. He says, what is your version of branding in marketing versus branding in business?
Can he actually get on and explain the question a bit?
Jibu, if you can actually, Prajit, please help Jibu to unmute, and Jibu, you could tell him the context of your question, please. Jibu, are you there?
I'm just unmuting.
Yeah, right. Jibu, will you kindly give the context of your question? That is, your question is, what is your version of branding in marketing versus branding in business?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. Yes, good evening, Surup.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah,
Jibu.
I was just, want to just know your version of branding in marketing versus branding in business, which basically, branding in marketing means practice of creating a name, symbol, design, etc. And branding in business is like, more than a logo. It will be reflected in everything from your customer service or the staff uniform, all these things. So, what is your version of branding in marketing versus branding in business?
No, I think I think in both the spaces it has to work in toto. I don't think there are two ways of doing it, because at the end of the day, everything that a brand does, it actually impacts the brand image.
Yes.
You spoke so it's like I was saying earlier, it's not just the logo, it is the experience, the associations, the memories that you create, and the stories that you create around it, and that is applicable for every brand, whichever space it is in. I think it is applicable for every brand.
Yeah, that is correct. My question is like, most of the agencies will concentrate only on branding and marketing.
Okay.
That is
Yeah. Okay. Now I get your
Yeah,
question.
the branding.
Okay. So I think the perfect example for that is what Nair sir started on earlier, which is Kerala tourism. Because if you look at it, we have been involved in curating that whole experience.
Okay.
And that goes not just into the logo and the ads and the whatever else is connected to promotion, but it also goes into relationship building, relationship maintenance, ensuring that the same tone and tenor and commitment of the brand is reflected in everything that it does, whether
That's
it is
right. Yes.
whether it is an event, whether it is a marketing, a trade fair that you're participating in, whether it is a one-on-one business meet, wherever in the world it is. So that kind of a curation is actually what has made a difference to a whole lot of brands. And even with Kerala tourism, the good thing has been that the trade has been actively involved in this, and they've been, partnering this whole thing. And actually, it's their property. I mean, they are doing it with far more finesse now. So you just need to get the ball rolling, and then the rest falls into place. Is what we've noticed very often.
All right. There is a last question that's seen from Bibu Punuran. Bibu, my cursor in my laptop got stuck, so I'm not able to get your question, but I saw on the screen. If you can unmute and ask this question, that would be the last question, because we almost ran short of time. Bibu, do you want to ask this question? Please go ahead right now. Mother, please help Bibu unmute. Unmute Bibu. Bibu, you please put your question.
Yeah, good evening, Swaroop. My question is...
Swaroop, Bibu is a director of a very famous lab here. You could introduce yourself, then ask a question, please. Hello.
Swaroop, my name is Bibu Punuran, and I'm the director of Medivision. We are a chain of diagnostic centers based in Kerala. And
okay. Hi, Bibu. Hi.
Anyway, my question is this: would promotion of a brand into a huge name necessarily mean a heavy ad budget, or can it be done? The promotion can be done without heavy ad budgets.
Okay, right.
That depends on where you want to reach and how quickly. That would be the simplest answer I can give you, because there are brands that rely hugely on word of mouth, and word of mouth is a process, and that process takes time. But today the advantage is that you have social media, you have a whole lot of other channels that you can effectively use. And nothing there is inexpensive anymore. Even in social media, you might think that you make a post and you put something up there and everyone will see it. Everyone won't. You have to pay to, make it seen. Yeah. So that space has also changed a bit. So I think the whole, the answer to that is, like, say, for example, you want to establish it in X amount of time, then there is a question of spending X amount of money. I am also a firm believer that if you curate the brand experience well, then you spoke about diagnostic services. So if you curate the brand experience well, your brand will become the magnet that will attract people. It will take a bit of time, and it all depends on how you do it also. But that would be the focusing on the experience would be the magnet, But if you want to establish yourself in X amount of time as an entity, that you will have to spend the required amount of money. And media
there's a cost associated.
There's a cost associated with it. Yes.
Sarupji, thank you. If you can look at your watch, you have been speaking for about 70 minutes now.
Good Lord.
And that's the way the time flies. When we are in company and when we understand and when we talk to each other and we talk relevant things, we wouldn't know how the time goes away. That has been the way. I give you back to Madhav, chair of the session. I had immensely enjoyed talking to you. I hope others also must have must have had quite a bit of takeaway from this. Maybe we will have some other time also. We will be meeting in KMA, maybe in a physical manner. And I hand you over back to Madhav. Madhav, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Mr. Swaroop, for that 70 minutes of very, very engaging discussion. The attendance also showed that it was very steady from the very beginning till now. In fact, that showed the pull of the speaker as well as the topic which we had today. And the speaker definitely did justice to keep them engaged till the end. Your evolution as a consultant, working based on your gut feel, and how you and your company face the adversities and the pluses that we all gained from the pandemic and the challenges. Your discussions were going on from different aspects of your growth to this level. And sir, thank you so much for bringing out all those points from him. And I liked it when you said Stark worked as an extended department of the government and spent money at times from your hands to do more research to find the right solutions. I mean, that this applies to all service providers, not only to branding consultants, to become a part of the client's psyche and think and work like the client and have the sense of ownership of the product or brand that you're supporting. Applicable to everybody. I'm sure somebody was asking, a student was asking for a key takeaway. I think that is something which they can do that, because being a part of your client or being a part of that company with which you're working, and having that sense of ownership and doing your best from your side also to extend whatever we can do. Wonderful session, Mr. Swaroop. Obviously, being a marketing person, though I'm an IT consultant by career, I was also very, very much involved in these kind of aspects. Earlier, Chaitra Leo Burnett and Linda's and all. I was.
Madhav had been there with TCS, and he's the one who had actually grown the brand called EX. The
world's friendliest business accounting was my coining. I was a marketing manager at TCS Mumbai, so had all those names actually, meeting up quite often. Wonderful experience after a long time with somebody who talks sense and talks business as far as branding and advertising is concerned. Thank you so much for that eloquent delivery of your thoughts. Thank you, SR, for bringing him here. And before I hand it over to our Senior Vice President, Ms. Nirmala Lilly, to propose the formal vote of thanks, let me just inform those who are present here. On the 8th of July, we have the next program from KMA. It's from the Women Managers Forum, a masterclass on artificial intelligence to explain extensively on the use of AI, which is now all pervasive across multiple industries and disciplines. We always wanted to know more about AI and its power. This is a session to attend. We have the session led by Mr. Robin Tommy, the head of TCS Rapid Labs, which is part of the Research and Innovations Group of TCS. And this will be on July 8th, Thursday, the second Thursday, as always, from Women Managers Forum at 6 p.m. We'll also be having the next StartCon event led by our Program Committee Chair, Mr. Sar Nair, soon, and we'll inform you the date, as well as another new series that we are starting in July called Rendezvous with the CEO, an initiative of the KMA CEO Forum led by past President Prasad K. Panikar. So please keep watching our announcements to hear more about these, and in the coming days you will hear about the exact time and date. But now it's time for the vote of thanks by Senior Vice President Ms. Nirmala Nili. Over to you, Nirmala.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. It is indeed my privilege to propose vote of thanks in the absence of our Honorary Secretary in this Leadership Talk series in conversation with the co-founder and vice chairman of Star Communication, Mr. Swaroop BR. It is indeed a highly informative session. I'm sure that all the members definitely benefited immensely from this session. And yes, the importance of branding, all of us know, branding promotes recognition. Brand helps set you apart from the competition. Brand tells the people about your business DNA. A strong brand generates definitely a referrals. And you've been talking about hospitality industry. I myself is from hospitality industry. Being with 25 years with this hospitality industry, I cannot forget the name Star Communication, because that's a big stall that you can see as soon as you enter in any of the travel mart. And yes, your brand, your clients will speak a volume of about your brand, like God's own country. Yes, most of my career I spent in sales and marketing. We always sell this, you are in God's own country. And incredible India, that is also a tagline that nobody can forget. And there are many more. I know that if I'm not mistaken, Bima and Asianet News, Techno Park, and many more, KSIDC, CGH, a lot of, the clientele, your clients will definitely speak about Star Communication in volume. And it was indeed, as I mentioned, it was a beautiful session and very brilliant session. I must thank our SR Nair also asking very relevant questions that we could get maximum out of you. And thank you very much for your kind presence and the way in which you explain everything for us to understand the importance of tagline and how this God's own country, the name, the tagline got, and the Aster Medicity, we will treat you well. All that we will never forget. And thank you very much for coming and accepting our invitation and coming and just giving this brilliant talk. Thank you very much, Mr. Swaroop.
Thank you very much for having me over and putting up with me for so long.
You're always welcome. We will be inviting you again in future. And Mr. S.R. Nair is our one and only moderator. I don't have to say more about it. All of you heard that the way in which he asked questions and how entertaining it was and how brilliantly handled the session. Thank you, Mr. S.R. Nair. And yes, as usual, our president presided the function with a nice note. And thank you, President. And I must thank the members seated over here, especially our past president, Mr. A.K. Nair, came first, and there are past presidents, management committee members, all our distinguished members of KMA and guests. Thank you so much for your presence. And I must also like to thank our secretariat led by Executive Director Jojo, Padmakumar, and Prijit and team. Thank you very much for joining us. And with this, I hand over back to our president. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirmala. And Mr. Swaroop, we have this signature memento of KMA, which we used to give when we have this physical meeting. There's a proof of you being here at KMA. Normally, when we have it at the KMA office, this was something which you carry home to show that you, in fact, went to KMA. So this will come to you. This is a physical memento only, a signature one of the proof of your presence here with a photograph real time, which will be couriered to you to your office. So once again, thank you so much for being here and engaging our members and all the delegates. I'm sure going by the chats which are going on the chat box, as well as the messages I'm getting personally, everybody had an enriching session, meaningful one. In these challenging times is all we can expect. So let us all stay safe. Look forward to a great tomorrow when this COVID is finally going to leave us. Till then, it is God bless, good luck, and all of you.